in 1890, we worked out our differences and the two groups merged again. This time, I was elected the group president. Our work dominated the struggle for women's rights for over a century. This was the most important cause of my life, and I poured my soul into working towards my goals. I simply didn't understand how men had gotten the idea that they dominated women and why they did. I understood that uneducated women didn't know any better and had no idea that they could do anything besides obey their husbands and raise a family. Moreover, the idea that any human being is above others because of the color of their skin and has the power to control them is barbaric. Giving women and black people rights would benefit not just them but the whole world. With an increase in education, jobs, then economic status for women and black people could be increased too. Over the last few decades, we have accomplished great things. I know that we will continue to fight until women are considered equal to men. I don't know if I will be around to see that day, but it will be a glorious day indeed. I hope you will consider the points I have been trying to impress upon you, and help myself and others set women as a whole free.
But Daniela, do you mind taking it out of your thing and maybe lying it flat?
Yeah.
I don't say that with pain in my heart. I say that with pain and worry. But I think it's, I think that's nice.
There we go.
You can go.
My name is Nelson Mandela. Throughout my life, I've had the great opportunity to encounter hope, change, and holding a new world in my hands. I watched the world grow into a better place because of the things myself and many others did to take a stand. I grew up into the royal family of the Bamboo tribe in the South African village of Mesbo. I was in a family of 9 sisters and 4 brothers. My father served as a chief. He passed away when I was 9, leaving me to be adopted by another chief in our village. As you can probably imagine, growing up in the 19th century, I had a lot of responsibilities. With all these responsibilities, I ended up becoming the first in my family to attend school. I became very interested in African history and started learning about how the blacks lived in peace until the coming of the white people. When I was 16, I became informed by my fellow people that I would never be able to govern myself as an individual because the whites had all the power over the blacks. This became known as apartheid. It did not mean that I was going to give up. I rarely do. A few years later, I enrolled in the University College of Fort Hare, the only highly educated school for blacks at the time. I studied Roman Dutch law, and after my first year was elected to the Student Representative Council. In 1942, I joined the African National Congress group. Our goal in the group was to create awareness and peace among our country. We all had the same idea, to free the world of racism and injustice, to fight against the overpowering rule of the white man. From there on, our idea flourished and we accomplished many things over the years. After several years of campaigning and protesting, in 1956, myself and 150 others got arrested and were charged with treason for our political advocacy and our radical ideology. We were released soon after, and I decided to join ANC, a group dedicated to sabotage war tactics to end apartheid. I was arrested afterwards and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. In 1963, I was brought to trial again. This time, myself and 10 others of the ANC leaders were entitled to imprisonment for political offenses. After 18 years of being in prison, I soon became elected president in 1991. Everything that I had worked for my whole life had granted me to run my country the way I planned. As much as I despised the white for all they'd done, I knew in order to make this work, I had to compromise and work together. I was the first black president in South Africa in 1994 until 1999. I'm only one man with an idea many would call crazy, but with an intuition and a stubborn mind, I changed the future of a country. And all of you out there, standing as a whole but made of many, you can change the direction of the world. Thank you.
is Indira Gandhi, and I'm here today because I believe in India, my home. I know what is best for this country. As a young girl growing up, I wanted to make a big difference in my country, and I'm sure you all did too. I have helped India become both politically and economically efficient, and I helped my father declare independence from the controlling Great Britain so that India could be free. My father believed in India, as do I. I was born to a family where I read politics, so I learned a lot about this topic. My father was the first Prime Minister of India, and I loved him, but unfortunately I really saw it because of his demanding job. My mother was also a very smart woman. Sadly, I lost her when I was a young girl. After my mother died, I decided to attend Oxford College in England to pursue my education of what I love learning about: political science, history, and economics. I attended the school with one main purpose in mind. I was to learn important skills that I could use to make my country a better place for the people. Shortly after I returned from England, my father had sadly died. I was appointed as a cabinet member, serving as a broadcasting and information minister by the new Prime Minister, Lal Bahudar. When I was appointed at this foreign government, it made me think that other women should have this opportunity in India as well. I was certain that I had this job because my father had been the Prime Minister. While that may have been the case, it was true that I was good at it. I really wanted to encourage other women in this country to try to have a voice politically because I believe in women's rights. It makes our country a better place and more people have to say. I'm the Prime Minister because I had very good education growing up. What if all women got this education? Imagine what we could do then. A huge drop in my life with Lal Bahaduar's untimely death. This was my chance to use my knowledge and thinking to make India a better place. When I became the Prime Minister, I faced many challenges, but I continued to ask myself, how can I make India a better place for the people? After we declared independence from Great Britain as a result of the war, there was much poverty in India. People were starving, and I wasn't going to let that happen. With my knowledge and education from the University of Oxford, I decided to come up with a very efficient way of farming grains and transporting them throughout India. It is known as the Green Revolution. This helped starving people all over India because I believe in our country, and I wasn't going to let people die on my watch. Lastly, I want you all to know that I love India with all my heart, and you all should too. It is a country rich in culture, ancient history, and its people are resilient and strong. I want you all to know that I help make India a better place for everyone, and you can help make India a better place too. Do you believe in our country? We must continue to make India a better place and do it together. As one, we must never stop building because we love our country and we believe in its future.
I'm going to ask, generally, as a general request of politeness and respect for your peers, to put anything away that's a distraction to you. And if you don't know what I mean, Craig, I will come and do it for you. Okay, thank you.
May I begin?
Yeah.
Hello, fellow Brazilians. I'm here to tell you about socialism, how it is the right choice for this year's election. Socialism is about everything being owned by the community as a whole instead of individual civilians. It's about equality between each and every citizen. I have believed in socialism since I was a little girl. I joined a group of people that rebelled against the military dictatorship in Brazil, which started when I was about 16 years old. Sadly, I was captured and tortured for about 2 years of my life. I was then finally released in 1972. Where I decided to go to Porto Alegre with Carlos Aroja, who is going to be a longtime partner of mine politically for about 30 years. We then went to Rio Grande do Sul, where we were one of the founders of the Democratic Labor Party. Then, in 2002, when Luis da Silva ran for president, I was a close consultant and helped him with his election. Then the chief of staff, Jose de Cruz, resigned because of political corruption, which left myself able to take his place as chief of staff in 2005. I then stayed chief of staff until 2010, when I had to quit in order to try and become president, which I did in 2006. And now I still am president today because of my success. I am running once again for president and hope you vote for me.
Socialism can impact government greatly. It is greatly different, and it's better than democracy because it's much more equal between each citizen as a whole, giving health insurance, and other important things to civilians. Socialism has been a great impact on my life. It has impacted me to believe that socialism is the correct thing and equality. I am part of the Socialist Party for this is pick the right choice. Pick socialism.
Alright, should I go?
You should go. Ready, set.
Okay, I'm here today to tell you about justice and what it really is. That it is not just an external thing, an achievement or a goal, but that it is an internal way of living, of doing what is right. Our souls have three parts: reason, spirit, and appetite. You cannot contradict yourself, and we must let reason take over our body so that we can do what is right. We cannot be influenced by your urge to harm others by our appetite. We must have reason and do what is just. When I was born in Athens, Greece, in 428 BC, the Peloponnesian War was going on. As a kid, I studied gymnastics, poetry, and philosophy, but I was not interested in any of these until later on in my life. My parents were aristocrats, and so was I. Sadly, my dad, Ariston, died while I was a child, and so my mom, Percatone, were married to a man named Pyrolamps. My parents did not have any influence on my beliefs, but a man named Socrates did. I met Socrates as a young boy, and although he was partly homeless, I found him fascinating. He was my mentor. He would ask people questions that were designed so that he could tell that the person he was talking to didn't know what they were talking about. I admired his thinking and work. During this time, I joined the military when I became of age and fought for 4 years. I didn't like it much and wanted to have a political career. After the war, I joined the 33 Tyrants, but soon left because of the violence and injustice. When Socrates was forced to commit suicide for refusing to acknowledge gods by the court, I was devastated and was turned against democracy. This also caused me to give up my political career. Then I decided to travel to Egypt, Sicily, and southern Italy for 12 years to study. I learned about the water clock and grew a liking for mathematics. I met many philosophers while I was traveling and learned from the famous mathematician Pythagoras. When I came back to Athens, I was fascinated by philosophy, and I founded a school which I called the Academy. Astronomy, mathematics, biology, political theory, and philosophy were taught there. Almost all of the students that attended came from outside of Athens to hear me speak. I taught the famous Aristotle and wrote my dialogues and books during this time. I talked about figures and how we have two worlds, mental and physical. When we think of a standard dog, a picture will come to our head, but there is no standard dog in real life. I talked about the parts of our soul and the cause why we contradict ourselves. In my dialogues, I wrote stories based on Socrates and his beliefs. In Crito, one of my dialogues, Socrates was going to die the next day, and Crito wanted Socrates to escape prison to live free of the government and be with his family. Crito was also worried about what people might think of him if Socrates did not escape. People might think that Crito valued money more than friendship if he could not pay to set Socrates free. But Socrates said, "But why, my dear Crito, should we care about the opinion of the many? Good men, and they are the only persons who are worth considering, will think of these things truly as they happen." In Crito, Socrates gave examples of justice, that the just thing